What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 21 of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. Here on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast from. Josh Lopez here from WrestleZone.com, Crave Online Media. Here on a Wednesday, it's September 14, 2016. I want to give a shout out to my sister, a belated birthday shout out. She turned 24 yesterday. I am not alone this week. We're going to bring in Adam a little bit later into the show, but we do have a special guest on. Rarely do I bring in special guests since we moved the show to YouTube. We like to have the show more topical and conversational instead of just super guest heavy and stiff interviews and stuff like that. So I have connections from my old pro wrestling experience days, and a good friend of mine out of the East Coast from New York. His name is Brian Shields. He's been on the show a couple times in my old radio days. Brian was the author of 30 Years of WrestleMania, the popular book that came out about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago for the WWE. He's also contributed to the encyclopedia books for the WWE. Brian's a great author. He's been around the wrestling business for almost 20 years in some type of capacity. And he's here with us right now through Skype. I hope you guys can hear him well. Brian, how you doing, my friend?
How are you, man? Great to be back on. Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. It's gonna be a lot of fun, brother, because it's been a while since we got to chat about the business and stuff. I know what you like about the business. We've always had fun conversations with each other, so today shouldn't be any different. So for those who are just tuning in, obviously, you know what we do here. We talk about the business. We don't really harp on the dirt sheet stuff because either it's not true or it's not really worth talking about. So what we'll do is talk about Backlash, and me and Brian will go back and forth about our thoughts about the business so far and where can things go heading into the fall season and WrestleMania and stuff. Brian, I'm going to ask you this really quick. We're just coming off the anniversary of 9/11, the 15-year anniversary of 9/11. Do you have any memories of that day? Were you there? Really quick, can you share some memories about 9/11?
Well, I was working at the time in the sports marketing department at Acclaim Entertainment, which is where I got my start of my career. I was home. I got a late start to the morning, so I was home. When I remember the early reports of when the first plane hit, the reports on the news were very preliminary, and not a lot of information was being shared at the time with the public in terms of what happened. In the New York area, and I think this is probably happens sometimes in Chicago too.
Mm-hmm.
There in the early days there would be like very small airplanes sometimes hitting into like the Empire State Building or something like that. Small planes, so people really didn't know what was going on. And I made the drive from my home, which was on the South Shore of Long Island, about 35 minutes outside Manhattan, up to, at the time, Acclaim's headquarters was in Glen Cove, so which is just, on the North Shore of Long Island. And by the time I got to work, everybody in our department was in the conference room and watching the news on the television, and that was when it was known that that there was a terrorist attack, and I'm getting chills right now thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Having so many family members and friends that worked either around the Trade Center or in Manhattan. I had a relative at the time who was actually taking a train to Washington, D.C. So, that's just, and I remember I think there were F-16s that flew over, and one one of them actually flew directly over the Acclaim building. So, that was just a day where I think for people in a certain generation, you'll always remember where you were. Like I know people in my parents' generation, they can talk in great detail about where they were when President Kennedy was assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, for those that, that are, from that time period that are still with us, it is another, terrible tragedy that they can remember. And people that are younger, I think that's really the first thing for them where they remember in great detail. I mean, I remember watching the television in that third floor marketing conference room, and the first tower just crumbled.
Yeah.
And I remember all of us, being very emotional. We were a very close-knit group. And then, when the second tower came down, it was just something that it's a pain and a shock that I think all Americans remember. And I just also remember back then the frantic feeling of trying to get a hold of your loved ones. I mean, most people at that time had flip phones. There was no social media. A lot of if I remember right, a lot of, if not all, of the cell phone service in the New York area was out. So it was, it was a very, very frightening day, and a terrible day, and one that really changed I think it changed American life forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, just a general statement as a citizen without making it a political discussion.
Yeah.
And I think it is important also to remember that there were other sites, other people in other places that were killed that day. The World Trade Center, there was close to 3,000. There were others, such as the Pentagon and then the plane that went down in Pennsylvania, and and this was also the second attack by terrorists on the World Trade Center. The first one was in 1993. So I mean, September 11th will always just be a very, very sad day.
I remember this like it's yesterday. I remember going to the Michael Jackson 30th anniversary concert at MSG. I think it was like the day before. I have family out there in New York, Brian, from my dad's side, and I remember going there and going back when I remember 9/11. It was my first day of first grade of school. So sorry to make everybody feel old. I think I was like 7, and it's really crazy how that day has kind of changed what society has become today in a positive and also in a negative light. But I think, like you said, it's important to remember and pay homage to not only to the men and women who sacrifice their lives to help people get out of those dangerous situations, but also just realizing that while, we're in the country that claims to have freedom, not everything when it comes to freedom is free. And you don't know, tomorrow's not guaranteed. And it's a sad thing, but I can't believe it's already been 15 years, man. Time went by so fast. Let's talk a little bit about Backlash this past Sunday. We had it at the Richmond, Virginia. It's kind of interesting since it's brand extension for the WWE. We're having these resurgence of Attitude Era pay-per-views. I did the Backlash play-by-play article for WrestleZone this past Sunday Brian, and I had a really good time watching the show. Obviously, everybody was excited because football was back, but I was not interested in watching the Patriots and Cardinals, and I had work to do. So I enjoyed the pay-per-view overall this past Sunday. Brian, how much of it did you get to watch? What stood out to you?
Well, I think the big thing for me is really as a longtime fan, settling back into this idea of two separate brands,
Mm-hmm.
and that there are brand specific programming, whether it's weekly programming like Raw and SmackDown, or the special events. And I really enjoyed it so far. So just before the show itself, I really enjoyed just how the split was done. I've always enjoyed the draft, and I really liked the choices for the heads of the respective shows and GMs of respective shows. So, there's a lot of great talent that is on the roster. So for me, I was really looking forward to this card.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I was a little disappointed with, just because I'm a huge fan of his work, was that Randy Orton was not able to perform.
Yeah.
Due to injury, and he's always been one of my favorites. His dad was one of my favorites. But unfortunately, that happens when you're in a very physical form of entertainment that is every week with no off season. Sometimes those things do happen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I always like you, Brian. I always been a big fan of Randy Orton, and I also always been a big fan of Bray Wyatt. You have two guys who are third generation performers, and it's kind of like those old school WWE rivalries where you have the second or third generation performers going against each other. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen at No Mercy. I saw a lot of people getting upset with what happened with Bray on Sunday, but if you followed along with the story at the beginning of the show, it made sense as to why Orton came out later in the show and attacked Bray with the RKO. They didn't say whether or not Randy had a concussion thing or something with his ankle. I don't know, but it was interesting. I'll say this for it being out of the blue and having Kane and Wyatt in a 10-minute no holds bar match, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great or anything, but I don't know. I wasn't as upset with Wyatt losing this one because obviously it furthered the story between Bray and Randy.
Yeah, and I really liked what you mentioned about Bray. It's not mentioned on WWE programming, and it makes sense that it's not, because it doesn't tie in obviously with the character of Bray Wyatt.
Mm-hmm.
But when people talk about his ability in the ring and on the microphone, this is a man who's the grandson of Blackjack Mulligan, the son of Mike Rotunda, who was also known as IRS in WWE. His uncle's Barry Windham. You're talking about somebody who has an incredible amount of athletic ability. He played football before he went to WWE. His ability in the ring, his ability on the microphone, and I think Backlash proved that he could have a really good match with anyone. And I've always enjoyed Kane as a character. I kind of like what's been happening here now, where he's just popping up. So for me, as I said, I was disappointed about Randy Orton not being able to have the match, just because I enjoy his work so much. But the RKO out of nowhere is always a popular thing.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully he'll be back soon.
Brian, let me ask you this. So obviously, for those that don't know, you were the author of 30 Years of WrestleMania. I'm curious to ask you this because we're in the middle of the brand split now, and it's back. Did the brand split with the research you did for the book? Did the brand split ever affected the way WWE would like come out with their attractions for WrestleMania as far as like booking is concerned?
No, I mean, for us, co-authoring the 2 encyclopedias and the 30 Years of WrestleMania book. I mean, I just remember in putting together the chapters in 30 Years of WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a point where that had to be explained a little bit, and then the announcers, got a separate listing. So, you had to make people aware that, that for some of these WrestleManias, there were, more than one announce team.
Yeah.
But that didn't really play too much of a factor, because ultimately it's, celebrating for the 30 Years of WrestleMania book, it's celebrating what was done in front of the camera while taking people behind the scenes. So it wasn't really that much of a factor. It's just you had to pay attention to it, and you had to remember and make sure that it was included, where it made sense. But it wasn't like this huge thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious because obviously over the last couple of years, before the brand split returned, WrestleMania's been featured more as a 4-match attraction show than the standard last match. Whoever wins Royal Rumble, that's the main event of the show. Everybody was talking about CM Punk and the podcast about how Punk won. Him being the last match of WrestleMania. We don't need to get to that. That's a long story. Punk's always been my guy, but WrestleMania over the last couple of years has been more like a 4-match attraction than just your standalone main event.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I mean, in terms of WrestleMania. We're now talking about an event that has 2017 will be a 33rd show. So, it changes, it evolves. The first WrestleMania was on a Sunday afternoon at Madison Square Garden in 1985. And, we're now, this will be 2017. I think will be the 11th year. I need a second to check on that, but they've been all stadium shows.
Yeah.
Where at first you had the Pontiac Silverdome for WrestleMania 3, you had the Sky Dome for WrestleMania 6, the Hoosier Dome at WrestleMania 8, and then they weren't back in the dome until WrestleMania 17. So. These have become and have been for a while, global destination events, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's even got to the point where cities are now bidding for these stadium shows, and I remember this because the last WrestleMania that was in the arena was here in Chicago at the old Rosemont Horizon. I got to stay old school on that.
WrestleMania 22.
Yep.
And they've all been stadium shows after that. And, it's interesting. The Rosemont Horizon has great wrestling history, as does the city of Chicago.
Yep.
With WWE and other organizations. And, like a fun fact for your listeners, WWE's first pay-per-view event was in Chicago. It wasn't WrestleMania. It was something called the Wrestling Classic, which was a tournament where the winner would win a Grey Ghost Rolls Royce, and the WWE Championship was on the line as Hulk Hogan defended against Nemesis Roddy Piper. So yeah, there's a great wrestling history in Chicago, and it is interesting to think back of the first pay-per-view WWE pay-per-view event was in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
One of the sites to WrestleMania 2 was in Chicago. And the last WrestleMania, as of right now, that was held in an indoor arena was in Chicago. So yeah, it's a lot of interesting stuff with WWE history in Chicago.
I remember watching this back on the network a few months ago. Junkyard Dog won that tournament, if I'm not mistaken, right?
He did.
Yep.
He
JYD was the man. Rest in peace.
I got to tell you, he was one of the most popular stars of the 1980s. He was huge in Mid-South Wrestling for Bill Watts.
Yeah.
And, when he got to WWE, he just became a star. He was right away in that same area of popularity as because at first it was really like Superfly. In the mid '80s.
Yeah.
It was Superfly Snuka. It was Hulk Hogan. It was Andre the Giant. JYD right away became part of that upper echelon of beloved WWE heroes.
Now to tie a bow and bring this back to Backlash, one of the things I took away from Backlash that there was kind of like an '80s vibe to the show as far as the in-ring wrestling, especially from the tag team side. I love the fact that the Usos are back to being bad guys. I think this just brings a different edge to those guys. The little underdog story with Heath Slater and Rhino, I think, is pretty cool. And speaking of old school matches, I thought Miz and Ziggler sold the show for the IC title this past Sunday.
I got to tell you, I really like the Usos' return as heels. They've been one of my favorite tag teams for a very long time. And even this, and some people would say like, oh, well, that's a small thing. It's all about the details and the small thing. And they came out. They have different outfits. They have a different look. And I thought I've been a big fan of the Usos a long time. I think the last couple of years the WWE has done a really good job in bringing back tag team wrestling. Tag team wrestling has always been one of my favorites. Heath Slater, this team of Heath Slater and Rhino is very interesting. And even last night, to get that ECW chant for Rhino made me happy. So yeah, I thought that the Usos, they're always excellent, so I wasn't surprised there.
You always hear people like Vince Russo and Jim Cornette and et cetera, talking heads saying that the wrestling business is at an all-time low and this and that. And I respect their opinion because obviously they've been in the business. They've done it at the highest levels ever. I just think they're not able to evolve in what the business has become. Like over the past 20 years since the Attitude Era, WWE, and you know this as well as I do, Brian, has really marketed their business on being sports entertainment more than professional wrestling, more than anything. And yeah, the company gets flack for that, but for the fact the sports entertainment company is so anti-pro wrestling, yet look at the title scene we got right now. AJ Styles, a guy from TNA, is the WWE World Champion. Kevin Owens from Ring of Honor is the Universal Champion. Shinsuke Nakamura from New Japan is the NXT Champion. So, like, I don't know. I get dumbfounded sometimes when I see people say the business is at an all-time low. The TV is not a necessity anymore. No, hell, NFL had its lowest ratings for Premier Week over the last decade. I found an article about that yesterday. It was insane. And you see so much coverage of the WWE and ESPN and so many other big media outlets. I don't get it. Maybe you could add some lights to this because you are from the old school era of wrestling. Brian, do you think the business is at an all-time low?
Well, first of all, I have a huge amount of respect for Jim Cornette and Vince Russo in terms of what they've contributed to the wrestling sports entertainment business.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jim Cornette is one of the greatest managers of all time. you know, and so to me, you know, they worked in the business at the highest possible level. So, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion, obviously. But you know, I think when you've worked in an industry, when you've worked at the pinnacle in an industry, you're going to have your opinion based on your experiences and the way that you view things. So, you know, I mean, there are so many metrics to use when having a business discussion.
Yeah.
And this is not wrestling related. This is just general. You know, so today, I mean, it's just there's so many different facets. But you know, I mean, everybody has a different opinion on that. I mean, as a fan, what I know as a fan is that I'm enjoying what I'm watching when I watch Raw and SmackDown, and I've loved NXT from the moment I saw it. So, you know, but again, you know, context is very important. You know, if so, I don't know. I haven't heard those comments from them, so I don't know what they're specifically referring to. But you know, like if you're talking about pay-per-view buys, well, the pay-per-view buys are going to be down because there's the WWE Network.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not. So my answer is more general because I haven't heard what they said, and again, you know, they worked in the business at a very high level. So, you know, I mean, I would never take any sort of validity away from either of their opinions, and I don't think anybody else should either.
Brian, let me ask you this before we let you go. So we touched on Backlash. You touched about a lot of stuff going on with the business outside of WWE. What's catching your eye? Have you seen the saga between the Hardy Boys? Have you got to see any of Lucha Underground? What's catching your eye outside of the WWE?
Well, I caught a little bit of the Hardy Boys work, which I really enjoyed. You know, I've always been a big fan of Ring of Honor, and I've really enjoyed. I'm able to watch them on TV through the New England Sports Network. I just stumbled on their TV one day, and I've loved Japanese wrestling for so many years. New Japan Pro Wrestling on Access TV is awesome. I wish that. Well, I don't know if I wish that was around 20 years ago. I wouldn't have gotten my schoolwork done. I mean, I have tapes and tapes and tapes of Japanese Porosu. So, I mean, I mean, I love wrestling. So, some stuff I'll watch more than others, but I always give anything a chance that's on television. You know, I really, Lucha Underground is really, really cool.
Yes, it is.
I don't get to watch as much of it as I'd like, but there's even a public access channel here in New York where I get NWA wrestling from Hollywood. So, I mean, I watch as much as I can. And, you know, one thing quick I want to mention about Backlash, too, is, you know, I love the AJ Styles match. I think it's so cool that he's in WWE. I think he's going to be an awesome world champion. And I really enjoyed the women's division. You know, Becky Lynch being the first ever SmackDown Women's Champion, I think is awesome. And I think the women's division in general is something that I've just been looking forward to this point for a long time. So, and The Miz, you know, we talked about it a little bit, but I think he's doing some of the best work of his career right now.
I couldn't agree more. Miz is killing it on all cylinders, and you know, we live in a society where everybody like knows the behind the scenes of the business, where you can't really find true heels anymore. but Miz is actually doing that on a high level. I mean, besides Jericho, because he's really good at what he does and getting heat from the fans, but Miz maybe, in my opinion, one of the best all-around performers in the company right now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think you saw the long-term potential of him when he stepped up for WrestleMania 27.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like, oh, should he have been there or not, or any of that stuff. Listen, the person who runs the company decided that, and to the mass market fan, The Miz did a great job.
Yes, it did.
And that showed the long-term, big-picture potential that he had, in my opinion. And I think looking at what he's doing now, I mean, he's hitting a different kind of stride, and he's been doing great work.
Miz, me and Adam have been talking about this on the podcast for a while. I think Miz should hold the IC title, kind of like how Jay Lethal hold the Ring of Honor World Television title. Miz has been killing it on all cylinders, and I'm very interested to see where he goes from here. And I don't know if you'll agree with me on this one. This is the last thing we'll talk about here, Brian. Maybe it's me, but I feel like since the brand splits happened, Miz has had the biggest impact out of both rosters from both shows.
He's definitely up there. I mean, I think AJ Styles has got to be put in that category.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But I'm a big fan in general of longer title reigns, which is ironic because, the Attitude Era was the greatest business time in the history of WWE, and titles were like hot potatoes back then.
Yeah.
But I like long reigning champions, and there's no doubt about it, man. I mean, what The Miz has been doing has been great, and people want to see more of it, and it seems like they're going to get that.
Brian, it's always been a pleasure to have you on the show over the past couple of years. You're a good guy. Enjoy your work as always. Please let everybody know where they can find you on social media, and do you have any projects coming up?
Well, first off, thank you for having me back on, man. It's great when we get to talk, and I always enjoy speaking with your audience. As far as following me, you can get at me on Twitter and Instagram at It's Brian Shields. It's all one word, ITSBRIANSHIELDS. And what I've been working on is I do a lot of work outside of my WWE work, but I'm part of the team that writes the commentator dialogue for the 2K17, the 2K video game series.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So I've been doing that for the last about 4 or 5 years. It's a lot of fun, and that new game is going to be awesome. And I'm going to be able to at some point talk about some new projects that I've been working on, and when I'm able to, I'd love to be able to come back on.
Absolutely, my friend. Follow Brian at Twitter at It's Brian Shields, BRINSHIELDS. Brian, we'll have you on sometime soon. Keep kicking ass, my friend. We'll have you back on soon, my friend.
Well, likewise. Thanks again for having me. Talk soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was Brian Shields from 30 Years of WrestleMania. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview. I have the reason I have my camera off is so I can make this work on Skype. We're looking back and forth at each other, so it's all good. All right, here we go. Brother Nero, if you're still here, you could pop on back in, my friend. That was pretty cool. Brian's a really cool guy. Brian's had a lot of experience doing video game work for the company too, not just books. Adam, what was your thoughts on that? You just popped back in.
What's up? No, yeah, I was here. I just had my microphone muted. Didn't want to have any like crosstalk going on.
Yeah.
Plus, with you guys being on Skype, it was fun. It was interesting just to kick back and listen. Anytime you get to kick back and listen, it's a good time. May or may not have snuck a quick bathroom break in, but that's good though.
Yeah.
Now I was actually in the chat room for a minute to see if anybody was in there. I was kind of, I was floating around.
Yeah, you do anything. So hope you guys are enjoying your weekend so far. It's been really hectic these past couple of weeks, at least from my end. Tonight's not gonna be any different because I got Lucha and we got the Cruiserweight Classic finale tonight. 2-hour extravaganza tonight, so that should be interesting. Going back to Backlash, you guys didn't really touch on it that much on warm up. Adam, overall your show, overall on the show Backlash, what was your takeaways from it?
You know what? I like that they kept it somewhat what we predicted, short and sweet.
Yep.
I like that they didn't go too. I'm glad they didn't go 3 hours. Listen, it's a 2-hour show. They don't need to. And with all these, the mini pay-per-views that they're going to have, I think they're just, like we always keep saying, they're just continuing the story, so to speak. But
yeah.
Listen, man, I think this really showed that if people weren't buying into the brand split before, you should start. Because this was, to me, this was a complete pay-per-view, and it's one of those where I'm a bigger fan of the talent that's on Raw, but I think they're building better storylines and better shows on SmackDown, and I think there's reasons why. And I mean, it's obvious to 3 hours, there's so many debates where we could slice and dice this, but it was good to see them pull off what I thought was a pretty complete, I mean, I think my only, I guess, and this isn't a complaint, really. It really shouldn't be. It's just for selfish reasons. But, the Kane segment, it was like I didn't like how they took Orton out on Sunday. But, after watching SmackDown last night, like when we started watching, I was like, you know what? It's cool. I dug it. You know what I mean? In hindsight, I dug it a lot. But Kane's always the guy that kind of does get thrown in those situations. And I mean, but you know what? He's that Jericho guy. He's that, litmus test guy. He's kind of like the, the kind of, he's the steady. But I guess that would be the only down point, but with that's something they couldn't control. They thought that Randy Orton was going to be able to go, so they had to make a quick audible, and it still wasn't a bad audible to make, and I know people aren't happy that Bray didn't get the win, but what did you that's how they had to continue this story.
I put a tweet out during the show, like, if Bray won, would you really care about the match overall? We always talk about reactions, right? So they got what they wanted.
Right. And you needed Orton to come out, and again, I understand that, okay, maybe you just keep Orton off completely, you build Bray up, and it makes him look a little bit meaner, but why? You know what I mean? In a way, we're the ones that are dying to see this Bray Wyatt win so bad. Make us wait for it.
Exactly. Going back to what I was talking about with Brian about Miz and Dolph Ziggler. Adam, I know the Intercontinental Championship has a dear place in your heart. It was your favorite championship growing up as a kid. What your thoughts on the Miz and Ziggler match?
Good. I thought it was real good. I thought it was another one that, it's I don't know, man. We always, I feel like everybody, as far as internet fans, or just fans in general, a lot of people don't give Miz the credit he deserves, because he is a good worker. When he's put the, it just they don't always, like we've talked about this a lot. They don't always ask a lot from him, but when they do ask him, listen, we need you to put on. I mean, that went what, 20 minutes, 15? I mean, at least 15, 20 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, and it was, I thought it told a very good story. It was great with, the paying homage to Rick Martel, or at least I love that the internet picked up on the air. Like, everyone was tweeting of that happened on Sunday night. But, it was, I thought, again, it's one of those where we want, at least I want, okay, let me say this. I want, and I think a lot of fans want right now, the Miz, even though he is probably the only true heel that they have. I think there's a lot of us that want him, even though we know the belt is a prop, to keep that championship for a while, because he's giving legitimacy to a title like Mr. Perfect did back in the, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Or I guess it was early 90s. But, it's, again, you need that person to make that relevant. And if, keep it on him, let him break Honky Tonk Man's record. No disrespect, but why does Honky Tonk have that? And it was kind of let's let Miz break it, and then have somebody, so that when somebody does finally break it, you've just made a star and a championship in the same night.
I'm glad you brought that up because Honky Tonk Man was on Lucha Underground last week.
Listen, I love the Honky Tonk Man. Please don't get think it's like a. But
No, it's
at the
all
same
good.
time, no, think about that. When you think of all the great Intercontinental Champions in history, Chris Jericho, Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude,
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it's like, wait, the Honky Tonk Man holds the record. That's
There you
why I wish Santino would have held it longer because the
go.
honkometer was so good, and I wish they would have let him hold that for a little bit longer.
Oh man. Like I was telling Brian, I just thought the pay per view had an old school vibe to it. From all fronts. And going back to your point about just where we are right now with both shows, I agree. And we were talking about this on the show even before the brand split came back, that I felt that SmackDown was just the better overall show than Raw. And honestly, it never had anything to do with the 3 hours versus 2 hours. It was just, I just thought it was a better show. And I think it really shows the difference when you have a commentator that cares about every match that's going on, not just the big matches, and he's like indifferent to the other ones. But I just enjoyed it overall. It was a good night. Like I thought it was cool that like we predicted that the women started off the show this past Sunday, and the amount of time they got on the show, not only on Sunday, but also on Monday too. It's crazy. I know Matt's loving it, our good brother from the Pipe Bomb. So it's all good. And I know you and Sam picked Alexa Bliss, but now we're back here in the scenario. Becky Lynch's first opponent is Alexa Bliss from what happened last night. So it all comes full circle.
And I think Matt's really, truly just loving this because he really likes that she calls herself Becky Balboa because that's still the only champion that Philadelphia can claim. And it's not even a real one. So, but ask anyone from Philly, it's real. No, I'm kidding. No, listen, I think that it was, dude, like you said, it was one of those where this is coming from all my favorite guys and all my favorite guys, we'll say that. A lot of the women that I prefer are on SmackDown, but all of the male talent that I prefer, typically with a couple exceptions, is on Raw. But I do think that SmackDown's been putting on a much better show. I think the storytelling's been better. I give them a nod when it comes to just overall production, when it comes to like side graphics. I love the little, sometimes it's serious. I kind of wish it was a little more serious all the time, but like I marked on Saturday or on Saturday. On Tuesday, I completely marked out when it said Heath Slater has 7 kids that he knows of. You know what I mean? Like that's the most ridiculous stat fact to put right there. But I don't know, the different camera angles. I like the production side, and it seems, and Morrow, like to your point about that, Morrow makes and this is not to discredit anybody on the Raw side, but Morrow makes it interesting. He worked in a Tupac line into Becky Lynch's championship on the 20th anniversary of Tupac's passing. That was amazing. This man is like reference city. I love him so much.
By the way, for those who are out of the loop, the Tupac biopic is coming out in November, which I'm looking forward to that, actually. All Eyes on Me. That's going to be a pretty good one. Before we move on to like Raw and stuff, I wanted to say this really quick. I find it interesting. Now we're here in September, and that old saying, "Oh, we're ready for the fall of the fall." We hear it every year. How treacherous and horrid the fall season is. By the way, unrelated wrestling topic. Mitchell McMule, get ready for Jay Cutler's one-hit wonder per season this Monday night, my friend.
Oh, jeez. Here we go.
All right, going back to wrestling. Yeah. I just think we're not only we're in this brand split, and I think it's been working out so far good, but also heading to the fall, you're getting more character development heading towards WrestleMania, where I don't feel as much where you need to depend on part-time attractions because more of these guys who kind of been lost in the shuffle the last couple of years are now becoming bigger stars.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I get that a lot of people are still skeptical about it, and it's people are still warming up to the idea. And I think once we get a couple pay-per-views in from both sides, I think it'll feel a little bit more natural, because right now we haven't had our first Raw pay-per-view yet, so I think that once it's not an overnight thing, but for me, I am already enjoying it. You know what I mean? I know, because I got online today, and somebody said, it's just a lot. It's a lot to keep up with. Which, listen, I totally get, because now we have a little bit extra storylines. Talent that typically wouldn't have, additional storylines. Now there are different and then side stories that we're going. But at the same time, like, I kind of looked at it. It's just I look at it this way. Again, the NFL was this weekend. The only game that I watched really was the Raider game. But I know people that watched it all from Thursday to Monday, or to all day Sunday, to the 2 games Monday. They watched 6 games. I watched 1. So I think it's really one of those where I definitely understand where people were feeling overwhelmed, but there's ways that if you don't like, if you feel Raw is too long, or you feel that there's something with SmackDown, you can listen. And I know not everybody has DVR, and it's easy to say, oh yeah, it's blah blah blah. I understand that, but I think most people right now are finding alternate ways to keep up with it and take out what they don't like, and I got through both shows this week in a total of about 4 hours, I think, total. And that's not bad. I think that's a Raw we got through in about, actually probably less than that. We got Raw, we got through in about 2, maybe an hour and a half. SmackDown was about an hour and a half, so maybe about 3 hours. but at the same time, listen, it makes it easier to digest. It's hard to digest a 3-hour show. Like, that's why I'm trying not to be as hard on Raw, because like you always say, Josh, there's 50 minutes of commercials that we have to sit through. You know what I mean? That's just commercials.
Yeah.
There's a difference. It makes it hard, guys. It makes it hard to fully compare.
This is minuscule in the long-term perspective, because obviously I'm not there and not working in the company, but in the rare cases I do the transcribe Raw for WrestleZone, and just from my experience, like, I don't do it every week like I did a couple years ago when I was on the other website, but in a way, I kind of sympathize with the writing team with how to, like, come out with all these scripts and different segments and laying it out and all this jazz. Like, it's even hard for me to keep it up with, like, how many talking segments on there, or ordering how many matches on the show. Like, for example, Raw had 8 matches this past Monday, and they had like 9 talking segments. It's difficult, but USA Network wants what USA Network wants, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and I think, Josh, here's what's fun. Like, for me, it's funny when people criticize and they're like, oh, but it's creative logic, WWE logic. We forget that, like, at the end of the day, with a lot of things, unless it's changed, like, still Vince has it still goes through Vince,
Yeah.
And if you think it's frustrating for us fans, just imagine being in creative. Okay. Not only are you trying to, like, please the fans and kind of work interesting storylines for our bipolar backsides that can't figure out what we want on a day-to-day basis. You know what I mean? But then you have, like, the alleged, like, bipolar boss that never really knows what he wants, and he changes his mind all the time, So you have these two kayfabe worlds that never really know what they want. Like, the poor, like, creative team is like, all right, you know what? We just got to do whatever the hell we can do with this, and then just whatever, just here, either shoot arrows or enjoy it. Just take it. Like, I feel like people are probably like Jordan Chase and Dexter. Just take it.
I found it funny on Monday. A Hinder Jinder comes in peace. I thought that was pretty funny.
I want this to be a Muhammad Hassan type of deal so bad. And
me too.
Oh. I hope. I don't think it'll go there. I think it's too sensitive right now. People are way too sensitive. It's an election year. It's too toxic right now.
Save it after.
You know what? I don't know. I think it's just. I think people can't separate. People just can't separate it anymore, man. So I'm so worried with this that it's just going to be a very tamed down version of, and I'm not talking Hassan with like the choker blocks and all that. I'm talking Hassan was so good that you had to hate him. Like people didn't like Truth at the time, you know.
I with the couple of segments where I could have done without, and I was kind of glad we didn't have another Darren Young Titus thing this past Monday because that's been running its well. I felt for 3 hours I thought they did a solid show. I didn't think it was great, but they sent around a lot of things in a positive light. Rusev did come back yesterday. He did on Monday. He did lay out Roman Reigns, so we know where we're going with that. I love the stuff with Owens, Rollins, and Mick Foley this past Monday. I thought that was really good. Mick Foley, I know maybe some. Mick may not be some people's cup of tea anymore, but I always think Mick brings something different to the table as at least from a general manager standpoint. It's kind of weird now because sometimes Stephanie will be on and off the show, and Mick is that babyface GM now. We were so used to the authority. No, you can't get what you want. No.
Well, Foley's growing on me is just because he's kind of playing he's not. We needed, again, when we kept talking about this, we needed the antagonist and protagonist on both shows. And in a way, Daniel Bryan and Shane are kind of on the same page-ish, but not really. They're starting to get in each other's way. And Foley and Stephanie now are starting to get in each other's way, but a lot of it has to do with the interference with Triple H. It started brewing, but now it's full throttle because of Triple H, injecting himself in. So I think that's why it's I really am really enjoying what Mick Foley's doing right now. But yeah, dude, I think the Owens Rollins promo backstage was something very important because I love that Owens brought up the fact that Triple H, you were what Triple H's guy, but then you realized that you're a failure. I'm your guy. I'm the guy. Like kind of like a plan B all over again. I like that they made reference to that. It was about time. But they did it in a way that I didn't think they were going to do it. We expected like this in-ring thing or this grand, but again, they're keeping them. The one thing that I wanted at least was connect them, but don't have them attached at the hip. Like, okay, yeah, there's some sort of connection, but we still don't really know. There's still a lot of questions on why, and I like that Triple H still hasn't been back.
Yeah, still 2 more shows before Clash of Champions, so I'm not expecting him, nor should he show up on Monday. I don't think so, at least.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think so. I actually don't think he should show up till the pay-per-view.
The pay-per-view is on the 25th, right?
Sure. Maybe. They said it was 2 weeks away on Monday, so
No, actually, the last show is on Monday. My bad. I thought there was 2 more weeks. Yeah, okay. So 1 more Raw. All right, that's fine. I'm pretty sure Stephanie will be back next week or whatever. Here's the thing, and people say I never say stuff I don't like or whatever. Here's the thing. I want to get behind what's going on with Cesaro and Sheamus because I love both of those guys in the ring, and it's fun transcribing their matches. I think they tried their best to bring something different to each match and how they have their finishes. Like, it's kind of funny. Cesaro had his foot on the bottom rope to cheat to win this past Monday, but I guess the only way I thought this Best of 7 series would had a little bit more interest if these guys had an opportunity to have their own in-ring promo segment and talk about where they are with their careers and why this is important to them instead of just, okay, here's the match, here you go, or maybe some like 20-second backstage pre-tape promo while they're coming into the ring. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Cesaro will win, but I just thought if people would get more interested if they actually had more promos with each other instead of just the matches.
And it's. I kind of feel bad because I've never been hard. I don't mind Sheamus. I like Sheamus, and I think he serves his purpose. I feel bad for Cesaro because I feel like this is another scenario where they think it's going to get him over, but it's. We don't have the attention span in 2016 for a Best of 7 series. It's just that's just the harsh reality of this storyline. And this isn't any fault. I don't think. I mean, listen, I give them credit for trying. But I just don't think that we don't. I don't think even 10 years ago when they were still doing it, I think like Booker T and was it Booker T and Eddie? It was who had the best of seven or who had the best of seven? It was
Benoit.
Benoit. Oh yeah. Oops. That we shall not speak of. So we. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that it's when you look at the not only the life cycle of the news, you know what I mean. Anything with whether it's news, sports, storylines, your television show. I mean, I don't know. I thought this was setting up Cesaro to fail from the beginning. Sheamus doesn't have to worry. Sheamus is there. Sheamus is good. This is really more about getting Cesaro over. I know people don't like hearing that, but it's the truth. And I just don't think they're doing him any favors out of it. I hope that there's a decent payoff, but I think the interesting thing that everybody's forgetting is they said that he's going to get a championship match or
down the road.
Whoever wins is getting a championship match. They never said what championship though.
Yeah.
They didn't specify, so it could be a United States championship match.
Chris Jericho and Sami Zayn was one of my favorite segments from Raw this past Monday night. It looks like they're fighting each other in Clash of Champions. I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that's pretty cool. It's kind of interesting. We were talking about the pipe bomb, and one of the questions one of the fans sent us was like, which performer you thought would do a little bit more since the brand split, but hasn't. And it was Sami Zayn for me, and he wasn't doing that much. And I just love the back and forth with Jericho. And Sami's like, if you really think Kevin Owens is your best friend, then you really are a stupid idiot.
I think they needed Sami in this feud with Jericho, and this is going to be good because this will be a good match between these two. And Jericho is going to help get him up a little bit. I think Sami's kind of getting lost in the shuffle, and they needed somebody to bring him in. But, dude, the promo is awesome. That's the one thing I wrote down. I like Jericho's promo backstage, too.
Yes.
Stupid itty. I mean, Jericho's been owning it, man. And you know what? I do like that they kind of did the a la. Like, I mean, I'm just glad 2016 Chris Jericho understands that it's not worth smashing the Geritron 6500. Just smash your smartphone. You probably got a warranty on it and can get it replaced. Exactly. I like that spot, man. It was that Shawn Michaels esque from back in like 08. But I dug that. I dug the whole, you didn't get his number? You don't have his new number? Oh, I don't know. It was just the back and forth banter to me was funny.
Ricky, you hack journalists.
But see, and it did seem like Sami was kind of getting caught up in his words a little bit here and there, but I think that's why a short little program with Jericho is good, because Jericho is, again, he's like Kane, he's the steady, he's there and he's going to help him calm him down, and Sami's going to be fine, guys. He's going to be a star.
We'll get back to Raw in a minute. I just want to say this really quick. Speaking of hack journalists, we got all this cool stuff going on in wrestling, but we still have the news cycle talking about Vince Russo's nonsensical soliloquies, transcribing every word that comes out of his mouth. We got this thing with Paige Del Rio that I can give a flying fig Newton about, to be perfectly honest with you. It's funny how it's such a slow news day. We don't have any conspiracy theories or how this guy is being held back or this or that. We need to come up with a story about every little thing Paige puts on social media and the lifestyle of Paige. Dude, it's not TMZ. I don't care. I don't care.
I know. Neither do I, man. But that's what they want. Because that's what sells. Dude, your boy Russo, listen, and I don't mean your boy, obviously, like your boy, but he says himself, one of his favorite shows is TMZ. I remember he said it in a thing before. Like, are you kidding me? I mean, so that says it all. But that's where everyone complains about the media cycle, but we all engage in it, but in a different way. In a different way, it's we do things a little bit different, where we do talk more about the positives and we kind of crack jokes, but typically those that are the ones that are really polarizing, they're doing it for a reason, and you look at guys like Rush Limbaugh. The reason why the dude acts like a complete total moron on, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to bring politics into it because I'm not saying anything. It's not a political thing. Dude's just a giant douchebag, you know.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with. I don't even really know what his political stance is. I just know that he's a blowhard. He's just a blowhard, you know what I mean? But that's what sells. Morons like to be led and flocked, you know what I mean? And they like to feel that people that are miserable like to feel, yeah, somebody else is miserable. And but that's every news cycle. Like, to think about this, Josh. Like, we're concerned about language. We're concerned about the word like shit, you know. And listen, I agree that I think the only thing I would change with WWE is. And I know unfortunately, I know this would force its hand into TV 14, and I don't want that. But I wish that, you know, I agree with everybody. Where do you say like poopy pants or this or that? Like, you want to say like you know, who gives a shit? But it bumps that up. But that would be considered TV 14. But we could see on the 6 o'clock news people getting shot in the middle of the street. You know, I think that it's a very strange and bizarre. We have what is violent and what is I don't know. We have our priorities twisted on what is okay and what is not okay, you know, for children. Like, I'm sorry, I think you guys know that I don't really I don't claim to be. I have a very deep vocabulary, but sometimes language is needed for a little bit of emphasis. You know, I don't care what people say if you got a couple of haters. You know.
You know, it's so weird. It's so weird. Like with NBC, like they'll like censor out words. You can't say certain things on The Voice. Yeah, on the show after on Chicago PD, they'll have like a rape storyline or something.
Time slot is a big deal. I don't know when The Voice is on, but after 9 o'clock, you're allowed to do a little bit more. 10 o'clock, you're allowed to do a little bit more. Comedy Central on the weekend. I mean, it's, you know, it's certain things, but it's weird that we're so afraid of language. You know what I mean? And I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of language. If it fits what you're talking about, and if you really emotional about it, just say it. I really don't care.
But that's, I guess, looping this back into, you know, with the whole media cycle. That's where, you know, it goes back to the whole controversy creates cash. You know, if you can be a polarizing figure, if you can be that. Listen, Bill O'Reilly, as much as people hate Jon Stewart and as much as people hate Bill O'Reilly, listen, they both play characters. That's why they would both go on each other's shows, guys. I mean, don't get it twisted. Like, they're all characters. That's not what they 100% truly believe. Like, but we buy into it and we drink it up. You know, it's like the gift of Jericho, baby. We drink it in, man.
I'm just saying, and obviously, for those that know me, I do the result articles for WrestleZone, but it's just really annoying and just mind-boggling the fact that these guys are writing and spending most of their time worrying about the relationship between Del Rio and Paige. It's just you really need to decide what's important in your life, and it's not news. It's none of our fucking business.
It makes me laugh. It makes me laugh too whenever it's like a big deal, like online. Like, and listen, don't get me wrong. Like, I think like this is why I always talk. How many times I brought up on this show, "Tools Vicarious" is a song that everybody should listen to and read the lyrics, because as long ago as that was written, it is very, very much so what's going on in today's society. But you know, we all like to see what we consider a train wreck. And like here's what I think is somewhat interestingly subjective, is that everyone's going to sit back with this whole Paige and Alberto Del Rio thing, and like, to me, I don't really care. Like, if there's a relationship, good for them. Like, who really cares? It's not my place. I sleep next to a dime every night. I'm good. So I'm not going to hate on no one. Maybe you haters need to upgrade your lives. I don't know. But why are we talking about it? You know what I mean? Like, why? Why do we care? It's like people are so afraid. How dare he take Paige from us? Like, what do you mean from us? Like, not like anybody said, oh, Punk took AJ from us. From who? It's his wife. What are you talking about? Are you kidding me? I think sometimes as fans, and we don't do this about any other show, Josh. We don't do this about anything else that we watch. We don't do this about any other sport that we watch, right?
No. If anything, right? if any this stuff happens, I'll throw a joke about it, but it's not going to affect my mood with who's banging who or who's sleeping who. I don't care.
Listen,
doesn't affect
I'll
me.
Say this. As much as I don't care, all it does, it gives me comedic fuel. You know what I mean? So listen,
Yeah,
I
he
love it.
loves
It's
it. Yep.
I love it because it gives me something to, it's simple comedy 101.
Yeah.
Just same reason why comedians love Donald Trump. It's easy comedy. But time if from a personal level, I don't care, and I don't see why we care, because again, we always put our own self-interest over other people's happiness, i.e. like
Correct.
what CM Punk was doing, or i.e. what Paige is doing. And guys, again, everybody says, oh, look, age difference this, or they're not right for each other. Like, who the hell are you to say who's right? Like, that's kind of, I guess, what has made me laugh about this the most, is that we all like this 2016 has been the year that it also that like people have like owned their wrestlers as like their own best friends.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed that. You know what I mean? It's been a little bit different this year with the vibe.
I remember doing an interview with Jeff Lane, who was Vince Russo's co-host. He had me on his show like a few months ago,
He's a good dude.
and he was he was like he was confused about like why people are so like diehard about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And I told him, yeah, I'm a fan of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, but it's really weird when you see wrestling fans get so upset over their booking, like it's their like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn like their boyfriend or wife. Like, it's not that serious, bro.
Yeah, I sit back and just no, but see, here's the thing though that a lot of people got to remember too is that when every wrestling fan should typically and does go through like cycles in their life, right? Like when you're a little kid, you always want your favorite person like to be on top. I still hold a grudge to this day, not because Hulk Hogan tried to put Vince McMahon out of business and in jail. Mainly, I hold a grudge against Hulk Hogan because he never let Mr. Perfect go over and take the WWE Championship. But then you start to grow up like during like whatever era. I didn't really like care like who was champ. It was just fun watching storylines. But then you're in your 20s and everybody all your friends run your mouth because blah blah blah. So your boy has to be on top. But then you listen. At the end of the day, if you're still watching wrestling past a certain age, you're not watching it because of bravado. If you're watching it and enjoying it, not getting paid to watch it and then complain about it. If you're watching it and you're enjoying it, you're enjoying the subtleties, you're enjoying the storylines, and the reason why I think that people cling on to guys like Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, is that they do look like the common man. They do look like your boy that could clear out a bar. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I've always said about Kevin Owens is he reminds me of this dude I used to run with that I promise you that I would put good money on him against half of the locker room, and I'm not even joking about that. This man I've seen clean out bars, and in a way, and it's we all have that friend. We all have that one friend that that like he doesn't look like it, and that's why I think that we relate to these characters because it's entertainment. We're past the point of wanting superheroes. We don't want Superman anymore. We don't even want Batman. We want Joker and Harley Quinn. We want, you know what I mean? We want Deadpool, the gray area character. We want
the man.
See that's where I think it's much different now because in a different lifetime maybe it would be different. I would understand Kevin Owens not having the look or not having this but I'm sorry, I think that it's a much more intelligent wrestling audience now. It's not a bunch of muscle-bound dudes saying, yeah, bro, this is like our thing. It's like it's a very diverse group of men, women, children, adults, college. I mean, you name it. It's all across the board, all across the world, man. And I think that they're doing a wonderful job. Look at all the champions in WWE right now. Are you kidding me? Did you think in 2016 right now this is the lineup of champions? Shinsuke Nakamura in NXT, AJ Styles, Kevin Owens. Like, are you kidding me?
Heath Slater.
The Miz right now, like think about this. In 2016, we can make an argument, and I know he's not an IWC guy. That's why I wanted to bring this up. I've always been a Miz fan because I like the fact that he proved everybody wrong.
Well, if you really think about it, he is an IWC guy because he's been father for their anger and visceral at the guy for the last 5 to 10 years.
There you go. But in 2016, he's starting to make a case that he might go down as the greatest Intercontinental Champion in history. Yes. Like he's laying the foundation for that right now.
Yes.
It's been a great year for wrestling, man. That's why I will hate on people that will hate on the product because I don't get it. I mean, I understand what it was back then. But the people that changed the game back then had these same critics when they were changing the game, and that's unfortunately that is also the life cycle of media as well.
Let me add this. You were talking about how you go through different time periods as a fan as you want like certain guys to be on the top or whatever. Like I had like for me, so obviously I'm the youngin here. I Punk was my guy that I wanted to be in the top for a while, even before I got.
That makes me feel old, man. I was in college. I was like 20 in college in 2000 when I started following him. Oh man! All right, go ahead.
Like Punk was my guy before I got into this whole media stuff, and like I wanted him to be on top. It was like Punk against the world and all that, and then he left, and I'm kind of like in the state where I'm not indifferent to the product, but I want to enjoy the whole brand and see who I can attach myself to. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm coming from. Like I don't have one guy that I live or die in my sword when it comes to being a fan of the business.
I'll admit I do have a couple guys and a couple women that are my favorites that I pull for and I mark for. But at the same time, I don't need them to be champion. I think that right now. Listen, I'm a Seth Rollins guy, period. End of story. And but at the same, right now, I don't want him to have a championship. We talked about this how many times, Josh? It's whenever he came back, I wanted him away from the title. I want him to tell a different story so that when they do finally decide to either make him champion or turn him heel again, it's that much more effective. It's that, you know what I mean? It means a lot more. And it just shows like the different layers and it shows depth with the Seth Rollins character, because we got to remember, guys, they are playing characters. The one thing that I do agree with, and this is why, and I want to tip my hat to Mickey Gall about this, CM Punk playing the whole mind games all weekend, he kept telling him, you're an actor, you're acting, and whether that was Gall telling himself or just like letting Punk know, like, I know what you're doing. Remember, guys, these are all roles that they're playing. That's where I always got to stay. Like, I always separate the character and the person, unless for some reason the person needs, whatever. But no, I think right now everything's fine. It's good.
Yeah. Let's talk about the women really quick. How about Nia Jax's past Monday night? Holy moly. She tore up Foxy. I did not see the spear going through the barricade. Like, holy shit.
All right, so maybe my wife made me rewind this so that we could watch it a couple times, and we were in tears laughing. Finally, and Josh, didn't we just talk about this a couple weeks ago? That why don't they just throw into a program with Alicia Fox at least?
Yes.
Like it's okay. I'm glad they did. Foxy was the right pick. And I finally got to see the video from last week from Foxy. I didn't realize how bad Foxy like drilled her in the face. So I guess that's why she got speared through a barricade.
She got.
What goes around comes around. She got Timberlake.
Oh man, I see people are like, oh no, Enzo and Cass are being buried now. I have a bias because Epico and Primo are my guys. I gotta support my fellow Barricans and my timeshare guys. I'm just happy they're actually doing something. So it's what it is for me.
The fact that they're actually timeshare, like they have these pamphlets and everything. I can't. I was smiling all night because of this. Like it was, I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Thank you. Like yes, thank you WWE. Thank you. Thank you for this.
Gracias. Oh man. All right.
I love it.
Owens and Reigns was surprised they actually went this route and again, Owens is the man. Reigns doesn't disappoint in the ring. I thought it all came out well, like we thought it was going to play out. I wasn't expecting Roman to win anyway, nor did he need to. But going back with Roman and Rusev is fine. I just hope they actually had the match instead of having a brawl again.
Yeah, I think this was the payback for that, where it was like, Roman Reigns it's SummerSlam, there was the no contest there. This was
Yeah.
making sure that Rusev, basically, okay, there's the payback now. Let's really like make something happen. I thought this is how it was gonna finish if he was back from as I like to call it, the Rusev Crush World Tour, because they were on so many honeymoons, and only probably the perverted men will get that joke, but. This was the smart way to go for me. This was the smart way to go. I think that I don't know. I'm not discrediting the United States Championship like a lot of people are. I'm not looking at it like a mid-card title. I'm not going to look at any title. I think for what the Miz is doing with the IC Championship right now, I'm going to stop trying to, and granted, I know subconsciously there's still going to be some sort of tear in my head. I get that. But I'm going to try to like strip that away as much as possible and just look at the prestige of each championship separately, and it's going to be so hard to do because as fans, they've kind of ingrained it into us to think that it's leveled, and there's a certain like stepping stone and like and this and that. But I'm going to try and completely separate it because again, it's with the props that they are. I'm going to try and start to look at each one with different lineage, if that makes sense.
And I'm not going to take anything away from Rusev or his title reign because I always been a fan of Rusev. He kills it on social media. Rusev's just one of those guys that always finds a way to crack you up, and he also fulfilled his promise that he was going to have 2 weddings. Just, what a great heel.
He's such a great heel. And you know what? This proves that for all you haters out there that say, how did Rusev get her? Because he's got a sense of humor. That's why. You could tell. I mean, he's such a good heel, and he's such a good sarcastic heel because he's got such a good sense of humor. Period.
Rusev Crush.
He's so funny, man. He's good. He's such a troll. I love him.
Oh man. Going back to SmackDown last night, Alexa Bliss is going with the whole Harley Quinn thing. I think it's cool. Alexa Bliss is now the #1 contender to the women's championship for Becky. It's pretty cool. That match is going to happen at No Mercy. This is not a SmackDown title match on like one of the weekly shows. So this will be happening at No Mercy. Again, we're having Attitude Era pay-per-views come back out of the blue. No Way Out will be back probably in February or something like that. So I would not be surprised by that. Who knows? Maybe the Elimination Chamber will come back. I don't know at this point.
No. Or as they call it in Germany, No Escape. I think they call it like No Escape or something, right? Yeah.
Oh man, what is it? Please, whatever WWE, please never bring back the Punjabi prison match. I've seen that in person, and I don't want to experience that ever again.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about that. I think that they realize that's obsolete.
Yeah, that's one of the things on the WWE Network that's not worth $9.99.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. No, you know what I don't know, man. I'm trying to see like what else I wrote down. And listen, I want to give a shout out to Cody Collier too, because yesterday we were talking about like I didn't think they pulled the trigger on the triple threat yet for on SmackDown.
Yeah, that came out of the blue. I have no problem with that. I thought this first segment was great.
I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, I don't want to use that obviously play on words, pun not really intended, but I guess situational. So
it
whatever.
Is what it is.
Yeah, whatever. It's just whatever. But you know what? The only reason why I didn't think they'd do it as fast as I thought that they would want Cena to kind of be, but now I get it. And Cody, good call, brother, because they built it up really nice, and I like now that there's some tension between Cena and Ambrose. You know what I mean? It instantly made me 100% interested in Dean Ambrose all over again.
Ambrose dropped John Cena after the tag team match last night, which. Maybe you could see that coming. I don't know if it's the heel turn or whatever. I'll let it play out before I assume things. But it was kind of cool to see that happen. And hey, Ambrose got some real heat. It wasn't like, oh, boo, leave. I don't want to see you type of heat. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And dude, to real quick with Alexa Bliss too. I can't tell you how happy I am with this whole Harlequin gimmick that she has, and they refer to her as the Harlequin of the women's division, and they didn't because they can't say Harley Quinn. But I love that. I mean, did you guys think I wasn't gonna love this already? I mean, I'm a kind of Alexa Bliss mark anyway, so this is but I'm glad that it was fitting that Becky got to give her promo in Philly. Absolutely, with the whole Becky Balboa thing. Even though I don't really like the whole Becky Balboa, I don't like her calling herself Becky Balboa, but I think that's just the Pittsburgh disgust for Sly Stallone movies. But yeah.
I'll give a shout out to our good buddy Matt. He got to go to the show last night. We'll get to talk about that on the Pipe On this week, so it's gonna be a lot of fun. I hope he had a good time out there. He seemed like he enjoyed it, so that's pretty cool.
Seemed like I think Ant was out there too from Rant with Ant.
Rant with Ant. Hey, Ant also got his own website right now, rantwithant.com. You guys can go check that out. Also, another plug, you can check out Adam and Sam's show, Wrestling With, on mindthecarnage.com as well. You can go check that out.
Very true. Please check out that website.
Yes, mindthecarnage.com. Going back to SmackDown, we had Baron Corbin laid out Apollo Crews again on the outside, and then Jack Swagger out of nowhere came to SmackDown. It's kind of weird how this whole thing happened with Raw, where he didn't say anything to Felipe Phillips, and then he just pops up on SmackDown talking about his stone cold hot wife. And that, by the way, Swagger should be saying that since his wife is exposed on websites that I'm not going to bring up right now, but that's neither here nor there. It's none of our business.
Are you kidding me? If I was Swagger, I'd probably be like, he's probably like, yeah, go ahead, hate on me, guys. Go check my wife up. So,
but Jack Swagger's on SmackDown Live now. I'm fine with that. That's cool. If you want to bring different leads to your character, I don't know if Swagger's already done for. I don't know, but I guess it's all right.
I want everyone to know that I'm a Jack Swagger fan before I say this, but I think that on SmackDown he was like the real American Jack Swagger, and on Raw he was the real American Jack Swagger, and then on SmackDown he showed up as Jack Swagger's pot dealer. I thought it was the coolest character switch ever. Listen, it was so funny because I'm like, what are the? But I'm pulling for Jack Swagger though, because I do like Jack Swagger. I like that he's hung around. I kind of like this whole laid back thing that he's doing. I just if he can like refine it a little bit, I think it'll be. Maybe they'll catch on. Hopefully it'll catch on. If not, let him just be real goofy again, because he was always at his best when he was just really bleeping goofy.
Our guy Kurt Hawkins was on screen this week instead of the facts. Got to see a little snippet of Kurt Hawkins this week. I'm really interested to see where they're gonna go with this. Actually, I'm very curious to see where they're gonna go with this guy.
It was as cheesy as it needed to be. You know what it reminded me of is was it on Eastbound and Down when Kenny Powers was making that and Stevie Janowski was making that like Kenny Powers like training video trying to get him back into the big leagues. That's what this Kurt Hawkins promo reminded me of was the Kenny Powers highlight reel. But I love I like it. Why was he giving us facts with his head between his legs? Why did that happen?
I don't know.
It was so great because it was excellent. That's why. That should have been your answer because it was excellent.
He's Kurt Hawkins.
Yes. No, I'm glad that they're laying on the cheese stick with this one. I am. I'm glad that they're not laying off the brakes with it either.
Ghosts have Kurt Hawkins sightings.
So insane. It's so insane.
I don't know if it's me, but I don't know. Every time I watch a Nikki Bella match, it always seems like her fake boobs are about to pop out of her little thing she wears. It's cleavage galore every time she has a match. I'm like, damn, man, you better sew that shit up before you start popping out, and John's gonna be upset with you.
That's her gimmick, though, right? It's not the gimmick.
Yep. I sure.
That's her whole. I mean, that's. Yep. I hate to say it, but that's 90% of her gimmick.
Yep. You got me.
That's why she'll never be in. That's why I'll never take her serious as a wrestler. That's when that's your gimmick. Sorry. And you can't hide behind it because it's basically always been your finisher was called the rack attack. Give me a break. You're not. That's your. I get what you're trying to do, and listen, it ties into character. And I'm obviously making somewhat of a joke here, guys, but at the same time, I can't take you serious when that's all you're directing your attention to.
Now, let me ask you this: are you fine with these old pay-per-view names coming back? Were you ever a fan of like No Mercy or Backlash, or no? I'm just curious.
I honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I think
matter?
that I think when it comes to them, in a way, I would have liked to, if this is the new era, bring in some new names, But at the same time, I do like them paying homage to some of the old pay-per-views too. In a way, it's kind of, for me, it was a toss-up. It was a win-win. I guess I don't look too much into names, though. I think there's certain pay-per-views to me that are always going to matter. I think otherwise they start to get too ticky-tacky when it comes to just naming them for the sake of being overly gimmicky with them.
Yeah. I do think they did space out where, like, the big pay-per-views. Like, it's not 2 pay-per-views every month. I think they have a nice nucleus for that.
I agree. I love what they're doing with that.
I think it'd be interesting if they had like Rebellion from the UK or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If we could get that in the schedule or something like that.
I wouldn't mind that, and I wouldn't mind bragging rights, man. That's one that I think that they missed out on. Once a year bragging rights where it was totally Raw versus SmackDown. And maybe and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you could use Survivor Series for that, but you know what? You could almost have like a big 6 then, because right now, Josh, we always talk about it. Like Money in the Bank already feels like it's one of the big 4 over Survivor Series, but they're always going to consider Survivor Series one of the big 4. Well, bragging rights to me seems like it would be so fun now that there is this back and forth, and maybe we just got to be patient. It's next, it's going to be on the slate for next year, but.
Do you think it's a good thing to have these NXT specials before every like major like main roster pay-per-view?
Yes. Do you?
I'm 50-50 on it because I just feel like for those that don't watch NXT every week and they just watch the takeovers, they just act like NXT does no wrong and they just like, oh, fuck the main roster, it's just NXT's week. That's the vibe I
screw
get
that.
from it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that's on the fans, though. Yeah, screw that. No, here's why I do like it. I like it because typically when you're traveling, at least for us, anytime we go to Mania, we check out, okay, what else are we going to? Yeah. And we always forget, like, if you go to the Rumble, like the year everyone said Pittsburgh, listen to how Pittsburgh cheered in the 2014 Rumble or Philly in the 2015 Rumble. There's still a lot of people from other places. In Pittsburgh, it was a little bit of Pittsburgh, but there was a lot of people from a lot of other different places too.
Yeah.
People travel for SummerSlam. People travel, and I'm talking from all over the world, So I think it is important to have those NXT because if you're in town, if you're there for the weekend, you can catch an NXT show, and it's smart business by WWE.
If I don't get a credential for WrestleMania next year, because I know Camping World Stadium, which is a horrible name for a stadium. Can't believe they changed it to that. Yeah, we're gonna have tents and s'mores outside before WrestleMania. If I don't get into the press boxes, I've seen the stadium. It doesn't look that big, kind of like the one in San Francisco. But if I don't get a credential for that, I'm getting one of the packages so I could go down to Orlando.
I was down there for 24, man, and it's a nice stadium. It's strange, man, because it's a fun little stadium to watch a wrestling event in. I thought the stage setup at 24 was really cool. I liked it. I actually liked that it was overcast a little bit because I thought it added to like the whole set thing. But
it was raining too, right?
A little bit of sprinkles, but it's just the placement is kind of annoying trying to get there. You know what I mean? It's not very travel friendly as far as if you're I guess if you're looking to do like people do bar crawls first, or people do all kinds of different things, or you don't not necessarily a bar crawl, but even if you want to go grab something to eat or this or that, it's just the stadium's so displaced from a lot of stuff. So
yeah, so it's not close to like downtown or anything like that, right?
Nah, no, not at all. At least not that I remember.
All right. Going back to the NXT thing, I'm gonna be very interested how they make these different. I guess. I say, That's probably gonna be something like, it'd be cool to have like NXT Takeover Rude versus Nakamura as a title. You know what I mean?
Right.
Have like a special where it's the match title. You know what I mean?
And say instead of calling it Takeover or calling it Takeover, then something after Takeover.
Yeah. Yeah, so instead of NXT Takeover Rise Again, like you have NXT Takeover Rude versus Nakamura.
In a way, though, I like it, but I think then they're going to give too much of a UFC vibe, because then you're making it seem like everything else is undercard when you want to feel like the entire card means something. You know what I mean?
Well, you're going to get more bang in your buck from NXT than you are the UFC. I'm just going to be upfront with that.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's why you find streams. I mean, no, you have a friend that bought it and you watch it.
Yeah, you go to the bar. You go to Buffalo Wild Wings.
I was drinking Crystal Pepsi on tap. Listen, if they still had Crystal Pepsi on tap, it was something they found dug somewhere from the 90s. It wasn't anything new. They were like, yeah, we just got to get rid of that.
Oh, God. Oh, man. I'm glad football's back. That's good. It's always fun. I've always been a big NFL fan. I think Roger Goodell's a fucking idiot. I think he's the worst commissioner in all of sports. So I'm not surprised by that. But I've always been a big football fan. I do get frustrated with the fact that my city's become more bandwagon than New York or LA. The more and more the years go by, I see more Chicago Packer fans than Bears fans. It makes me want to throw up.
Chicago Packers fans. Well, listen, just because you're by accident of birth where you're born doesn't mean you have to support that city. I am a part of the Raider Nation, and it doesn't matter what city they're in because the Raider way is a lifestyle. It's not a team that I follow.
Yeah. And
Raider fans understand that. Nobody else does, and that's fine because we don't want you. We want the Raider Nation. We want our family. And I get a lot of shit for that in Pittsburgh. A lot. How dare you? And in the 70s, before I was born, cool story. That does not matter. It does not affect me in 2016 or 1983 when I started watching football or 4 or whatever.
I guess for me with football is the fact that my team represents what the city represents, being like blue collar and work ethic and being tough. Unlike Pittsburgh, where they told around a guy who has criminal cases in his background and told him at a hero. But
yeah, the Roonies used to have a very good code of ethics where it was like, listen, there was a Steeler way before, man, where like I used to have, even though I didn't like him, I used to have a lot of respect for the Steelers because there was a Rooney way where if you didn't, there was a standard and you were gone. But as the generations went past, the newer Roonies that were in charge, they got a couple women beaters on their team, got a couple alleged cases with the quarterback. It's like actually like they're the Raiders now. How about that?
By the way, I know I joke around and talk about the fact that my city's become a war zone, but please send out some well wishes in case the Cubs win the World Series this year because it's gonna get ugly, really bad. And I'm not even a Cubs fan.
I don't watch baseball, so I have no idea I always make the joke that I'm not a 95-year-old man. So I don't watch
You're not.
Listen, I played, man. I played in the college. I played in the college, and I was just like, with this game. I played a couple years ago too, just as like one last comeback, one haha tour in for a rec league or whatever. But dude, it's just I can't do it. I can't sit there and watch. It's like, for me, watching paint dry. Like, I love playing, but even when I played that last year, it was like, why did I ever even like doing this? This is boring to me. I don't know.
It's got to the fact where you watch the games and it's like they're calling golf. It's freaking baseball. Bring some energy to it.
It's anything, some kind of personality. Like, my God. But yeah, I don't know. So how are my Mets doing? I like that. How's my Mets doing? Since I'm not paying attention.
Your Mets are close behind the wild card spot.
Sounds about right. We typically choke at the end of the year, so that sounds about right.
Yeah. And I thought the Yankees were going to be out of the playoff contention, but they have the same records as the Mets right now, which caught me by surprise. It's like Alex Rodriguez retired, right? And then they just start winning a bunch of games.
Well, yeah, because they don't have to watch him make out with himself in the locker room all the time. So it probably makes it a hell of a lot easier for them to focus on what they're trying to do. Hey, he did that photo op. Don't boo me. He's the one that did that spread. But listen, we need to talk very briefly about those Oakland Raiders.
Yes, we do.
We need to talk about those Oakland Raiders because, I heard a lot of, you guys are going to be good this year, but you're still going to start off 0-1. You're not going to New Orleans and beating Breeze. You guys are still young. Understand that there's still teams you just can't beat yet. I'm not going to say it wasn't the best win, and I'm not even going to say that we're going to win the division. I'm not there yet, guys. I'm a very realistic Raiders fan, but for all the negative stuff I had to hear all off season leading up to week 1, oh, you could shove it. Oh.
For those that know my sports talk comedy show, actually, because we get the vulgar language out of the way in the morning. It's kind of like, hey, you go to your cubicle and you get something to laugh to for a couple hours. I have a friend of mine, Sean, who lives in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and he is a nut for the Patriots, and I bust his balls every time we do his show. It's fun. But going to the
Patriots.
Going to back to the Raiders, I said this before the season started that I thought the Raiders were going to actually win that division. I think Kansas City is overrated. I think San Diego absolutely sucks donkey dick. Denver is going to go down a little bit this year. It's time. I think it's the Raiders. They have one thing those three teams don't have, and that's toughness. Period.
Don't you put that evil on us, Ricky Bobby. Don't you do that. I want people to still think that we're just the Raiders and we're not good, and I like that. I'll be honest, guys. I don't know how they're going to adjust, and I'm not going to pretend to be a football expert, guys, because, listen, I watch, everybody always complains about there's too much wrestling to watch. Football, and this is why I always say that, Josh, we always talk about, is there oversaturation with professional wrestling? And I always say no, that, there might be overconsumption, but there isn't oversaturation. Now, I look at it this way. I always compare football. I do not watch football as much as I used to because I feel that football is oversaturated. Most people would disagree with me. So it's all about what you like, what you don't like. So I don't watch as much football as I used to because it's so spread out, because there's so many games. It's all over the place. I just watch my Raiders and that's it. But I thought San Diego would win the West. I just thought people forget they were banged up last year. Rivers, I feel like, still has one big year left in him, and I know, shout out to Warhood. I know he's probably loving it. I just don't now with Keenan Allen. I guess it's going to see what they do, with his injury and stuff. But I don't know, man. I'm still not going to believe the Raiders is a division winner until I see it. And I'm not saying it's not because I don't have faith in my team, guys. It's just you have to understand when you're on a 14-year drought, it is very much, and it's not trying to be like, you learn to lose. No, you just learn to be realistic. And every team should go through a drought, because all of you that talk on your pedestals about how great your team is, you really see how, it's just, unfortunately, the Raiders always fought against the league. I guess kind of like you could say CM Punk fought against, WWE, and the league hates us. So it is what it is.
Speaking of NFL and Monday Night Football, over the past 3 years, they've been scheduling really uninteresting games, and everybody talks about, Raw's ratings are going down under 3 million now. Oh, you better watch out. The NFL's back. I want to give a shout out to my bud Jason Barrett, who is a media guy who covers ratings and all this stuff for news television and stuff, not only sports, but also entertainment and stuff. I met Jason at my old broadcasting school, and Jason sent me this article that NFL had its lowest ratings for a opening week in the last 10 years this past weekend. So I found that really interesting and tied it back into a wrestling point. Ladies and gentlemen, TV is not worth it anymore. It's not worth the money. It's not worth sitting in your seat as long as they want you to. Hell, you're talking about oversaturation. Picture yourself sitting here, look at the screen, and you have 6 or 7 games going on at the same time on Red Zone. My head would explode before the last game would come out, because it got all this stuff going on with the red zone. So TV is especially for I just love how people come up with the NFL and WWE comparisons. Everybody's like, "Oh, WWE better bring it, or they're gonna be out of business." We go through this loop every year. Nothing changes.
Well, we go through this loop every year, but here's I think the frustrating thing is that, again, we live in a world where, I mean, look, right now, smartphone. So everything, I could do anything I want to right now in the moment on our phone as we're talking, right? Mm-hmm. So, and the world has forced our hands, whether we want this or not. And this is, this is where I'm going to start to show my age a little bit. And like, I missed the days where there was no social media. There was not like, everything wasn't like right at the tip of our fingers where like, I got your answer right here. Like I used to love those days of like, because, there was more human contact. There was more actual interaction, better conversation. But it's a very fast-paced, kind of always have to multitask world, right? Yeah. So with that being said, if you're a slave to your television, you're behind, And so if you're a slave to your TV, you're behind. Ratings should be down. People should be disconnecting. Instead of criticizing, I'm applauding people for basically, listen, and people are still watching. Again, Josh, and listen, there were 6 people in my house for a fantasy football draft. Some people were through a computer. The 6 people that were in my house, 5 of the 6 people watch professional wrestling. 0 of the 6 watch live. Either somebody streams it, or we DVR it, or we catch it when we can't, or whatever the case may be. We all watch it different way. None of us watch it live. None of us. 0. But none of us watch any shows that we watch live. That's what's nice about DVR. But here's the thing: there's certain people still don't have the luxury of having DVR, or their markets don't cover have the DVR, or different things like that. Yeah. So you're still going to have and the only people that these these ratings should matter to were corporate sponsors, but they understand that ratings are down. The only people that don't are the ones that are trying to use ratings as a scapegoat. And as we're talking, Josh, I'm actually sitting here. I'm going to pull up the Nielsen TV ratings while we're talking. I'm on Nielsen's website. But yeah, I just think it's one of those where, of course, football's ratings are going to be down because. And think about this, guys. One of those was a Pittsburgh Steelers game. And as much as I hate the Steelers, you have to give the devil their due. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a nationwide draw. If the ratings are down during and I don't know if they included the Monday night games or not, with that rating, but all around, it's just TV's just down. TV's just down. People have better things to do. We know that we can watch it anytime that we want to. And I think it's foolish to think that. I feel that you're stuck in a different era if you think that you're naive if you think that the way the lifestyle of 2016 isn't affecting. Like I said, I did the research, man. The only show that consistently on cable television that consistently pulls over a 10, because that's the big number, is 10, but even comes close, is The Walking Dead. And the next one up, you're looking at 3s and 4s tops. TV is just down, and that's a good thing, guys. I'm applauding society because we need to detach and we need to put a lot of stuff down. But that's a different soapbox for a different time.
Let's talk a little bit about the leader decay before we go into the Punk stuff. It's kind of funny. We had the final deletion. We got to recap it like the day after. That was so much fun. Delete. That was one of my favorite episodes we've done so far.
Yeah, that was good. I like that. I like that because that's when it was still on a Tuesday. So we got I think that was one of the last Tuesdays, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was one of the last Tuesdays. Yep. And what's so great about this is like we start off with Matt showing Brother Nero all the animals he has, and Jeff is sparring with a kangaroo.
You're like, why was he sparring with a kangaroo? So many questions, and I have so many questions. Senor Benjamin's found.
Yes, he is found.
That's correct. Good. That's good. It's good because I like to know. I sleep better, even though I still don't sleep much, but I sleep better knowing that Senor Benjamin is safe and okay, though.
I was I thought I was gonna do my regular routine when I covered TNA last week, and then our good buddy Ronnie Starks messaged me on Twitter. He's like, "Hey, you want to do a commentary on Impact?" And I was like, "Hey, let's do it." And we're just bullshitting and shooting the shit while the show's going on, and Impact revealed this new like title. It's kind of like Brawl for All, but the only way you win is by like pinfall or submission. If you have no pinfalls, the judges will score you on takedowns and stuff. So it's called the Impact Grand Championship, but they're kind of doing like Brawl for All style too at the same time. It's so weird.
So wait, real quick, I just wanted to pull something up. The ratings for Monday night.
Yeah.
WWE was only behind the 2 NFL games, which pulled let me see, which it looks like they pulled 10 million viewers. One pulled 12 million viewers. That was the Steeler game. One pulled 10 million viewers. So think about this. The Walking Dead is pulling more viewers consistently than the first Monday night games of the week. And that's the only show on TV that's doing over a 10, guys. So when we talk about these ratings, keep that in mind. And that's a tip of the hat to the Walking Dead creators. My God, to think of what they're doing right now is something special. Sports Center for Monday night, Love and Hip Hop on VH1, whatever the hell that is. But then you have the next 3, Monday Night Raw, Monday Night Raw, Monday Night Raw.
Still in the top 10.
So I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's I don't know what people expect, what people want. But you can't deny cold hard facts. That's like you can't. We're not politicians, guys. It's not about how you feel. There's facts involved, guys.
Going back to the TNA thing, we were busting balls about some of the guys who were on the show because we didn't know who it was, and I was like, "Following contest is scheduled for one fall." And Ronnie's like, "Scheduled for who gives a shit time limit." Oh God, Ronnie's a trip. But when we saw the deletion and stuff, and it was like Senior Bench started the whole thing. He's like, "I'm preparing the burial for the decay." I was like, "Oh, here we go." And then you got all the little Jeff Hardy sculptures around the yard.
Whenever he flipped the shovel around and it said delete on the back of the shovel, yes. I lost it because Sam looked down for a second and I was like, "Oh no, you got to see it." I like rewound it. There was a couple different parts, like you couldn't blink. You can't blink with these things because you'll miss little nuances. That's why you have to watch it like a second and third time. I love that they're doing this, and I love that it's creating such a buzz. And I love that Matt Hardy is just owning 2016 over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
It's truly the broken brilliance at the end of the day. That's all it is. By the way, I mentioned this on warm up. They used the same song that Matt Hardy was writing on Skarsgård while the guy is driving down the road. Oh God!
Like I said, I mean, I made this joke the other day too, but for me, I think it was funny that like I was looking at it at one point in my head, I was laughing like, okay, so Matt is Rick, Rebby is Michonne. It looks like Jeff, I don't know, he took Negan's bat. Abyss is Negan. So I'm guessing that he's probably Glenn. Sorry, Walking Dead fans, if you're a Glenn fan. He probably got his brains beat in, although I don't know, it might get messier than that. There's a nasty rumor of Walking Dead fans. If it's Maggie, I might cry. But and that's real talk. That's grown man talk right there. Walking Dead fans will understand. But yeah, no, dude. I think at least I don't know if they were like tipping a hat to that, but I like that this was different. I like that this was. They knew they couldn't really do the same thing. They took different chances, different camera angles. I thought were really awesome. Like when they went underwater, just which is a good way to drown someone, by the way. But it was great. Like I don't know. There's little. I don't prefer one over the other, like when it comes to the final deletion or delete or decay. There's bits I like about them both, and I like that they keep upping their game a little bit.
And I love how, like, when they first met with each other with the decay, the fireworks already blowing off.
Instantly.
Yeah.
It didn't, like, ease you into anything this time. We're like, okay, here it is right from the jump. Boom. Again, this is like the Sharknado, and I keep saying this. There's a lot of satire, a lot of B movie that with Rebby and Matt being in like Wrestlers versus Zombies, and this is just I think them. I hope that it's been their creative freedom and they've been able to do this, because that would make it a lot better for me.
What brought me over the top with this was Joseph Park coming out of the lake.
That was so good. That was so good. Which was cool, because then with the Willow character, for me, I think everybody has a tipping point. Everybody has a spit take moment from each of these, right? The first one for me was it's a dilapidated boat. That was my spit take moment. Cool, fine. This one, when Matt sucked in the mist and then he took it in and then he spit it back out. That was one of those moments if it would have been a movie history, I would have been like, this is it. This is one of those moments that I'll never forget. Thank you, Matt Hardy, for this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You know how great he is with psychology? Whenever he's shooting fireworks or he's hitting somebody with a ladder, he's like, delete,
So funny,
delete,
man.
delete.
Everything about this has been so funny, and I like that they're obviously, and this, you know what, and we talked about this for so long. We hope it wasn't just like a one-off with Jeff, or it wasn't. I'm glad they brought Decay into this, because I like how this is set up. I really do.
Yeah. Deleted Decay will continue probably tomorrow night. Senior Benjamin is found, but the story between Decay and the Hardys are not over yet. And one must be deleted. I think they have a delete compilation on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. I saw that the other day.
I think so. I want more. I want all the outtakes of Jeff Hardy boxing that kangaroo. I really do. I want B-roll of so much.
You guys a trip. You gotta spar with a kangaroo.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine the fun these guys are having? I mean, these guys and girls are having like these. This is talking about having fun at your job. My God, this has to be a blast.
Going back to a little thing, because I want to say something on Punk, and then we'll head out of here. I do want to say, though, like we were mentioned earlier with SmackDown, I really loved the Ambrose John Cena AJ Styles thing. I thought it was great. The back and forth with Ambrose and Cena got real. I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, that was that got. I like that though, and crowd response tells it all, man. Like I always say, the crowd they listen to the fans, and muted myself there for a second.
Oops.
I like that moment that it was that everyone was going moments, like, because I instantly think of it where it's like one of those. That was just for everyone watching video at home.
And then when Ambrose is like, yeah, you're a Hollywood part-timer, yet I should care what you think about me.
Yeah, it was getting cutthroat back and forth, but that's good though, right? Because we want that realism tied in, and I listen. Cena is the best when it comes to being able to take those like pot shots. I'm sure Cena's given them material like, here, say this about me. The internet will love this. Say this. Like, he seems to be at this point of his career where he really wants to like dig into that. So
I want to finish the show a little bit here, guys. Talk about CM Punk, and then we'll head out of here. We've been previewing the fight over the last couple of weeks here on the show, and talk about the Fox series that happened with Punk, with the evolution of Punk, and it was all cool and stuff. And we always find a way to bring up CM Punk on the show. We hold nothing back that Punk is our guy, and we're not ashamed of it or anything like that. But Punk did lose on Saturday night. He did lose to Mickey Gall. Much respect to Mickey Gall for his character as an athlete and just as him as a person. I thought he was impressive for a young guy, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. But when it comes to Punk, look, I'll say this, and I've been saying it on other shows. I hold nothing back with the fact that Punk's my main guy and my all-time favorite wrestler. So there's a certain bias in me from a personal standpoint, more than just what he did on the screen in the ring or cutting promos or anything like that. Punk resonated with me from a human standpoint, and the fact that he got to do what he wanted to do, despite anybody opinions of him or people trying to throw obstacles in front of the guy did it no matter how anybody felt about him. And you can't take that away from anybody. Whether you like the person or not, if somebody's going to do something on their limit, taking a chance on themselves, you got to give that person some type of respect, whether you don't like the guy or not. I just feel at the end of the day that it really sucks when people go after the guy about what happened a couple years ago. They can't get over it. They can't move on from it. Life's not perfect. If you're unhappy and you need a move, it was best for both. It was both best for WWE and CM Punk to move on from each other. It was the best thing for both of them. WWE got better because of CM Punk's influence on the company after he left. For people to say that's not true, that's bullshit, because we wouldn't be having what we're having right now if it wasn't for Punk. His influence and his impact on right now, and you can't take that away from the guy. And if you don't like the guy, cool. It's whatever. The guy's not an angel. I'm not going to force somebody to like somebody. But if you're going to go out there and go after the guy and laugh at him and be so glowing about it, I just think you're ignorant at the end of the day. But I'm happy for Punk. I'm glad he got to experience this moment. I'm sure he'll be back at it soon. But I'm happy for the guy. So.
Kidding me? Did you see the smile on his face just walking through that curtain? That was worth it. That was worth everything right there. But for me, I look at it this way. So he got to live his dream. He got paid $500,000 for it. And they're estimating that it might creep up, with projections, this might hit the 700,000 mark when it comes to pay-per-view buys.
Okay.
Guys, he won. Dana White won. Listen, and this shows that CM Punk should not have been in there, period, with Mickey Gall. So first and foremost, this wasn't a CM Punk thinks he can. This is a Dana White gave him the offer to. And none of you would say no. Are you kidding me? None of you would say no. But at the end of the day, I think we found out that this was absolutely a Dana White marketing ploy, which we knew we knew that from the jump. We knew that this was probably going to be a one and done kind of scenario, and we knew that he had no business being in that octagon with Mickey Gall. Go ahead, Josh.
I would say this really quick, and I'll let you go back to it. But what pissed me off about that is I agree that Dana White should not put Punk in there. But I agree with you. That was a publicity stunt for the fact that Brock Lesnar embarrassed them a couple months ago at UFC 200. That's my thoughts. But go ahead.
Well, no, I think this was a pub stunt from the beginning. There's no way that and this isn't, guys. I love CM Punk, but this mixed martial arts is something you just can't break into, and remember, Punk wanted to leave in 2011 and do this, but he didn't, so he got a late start. And I'm glad that he's going to still do it and probably, on lower circuit levels and stuff like that, because, again, it's about doing what you love. It ain't about fame. It ain't about trying to be the big dog on campus. It's about doing what you love. But I think at the end of the day, everyone always wants to say, well, facts and figures, this and that. Pay-per-view buys were through the roof for this. It did more than estimated. He got paid handsomely, in there. And again, everybody wants to say that CM Punk thinks he could or this, that. Anybody in that position would have taken that. Are you telling me that if for some reason your favorite team's quarterback goes down for the season and they call you and say, hey, whatever your name is, we need you to come in and suit up, and you go, listen, but I haven't played football. I don't know anything about it. We don't care. We just want you to come in because it's going to be a great story. You going to say no? No, you're going to put that uniform on. You're going to go out there and you're going to get your ass kicked. Right? Because that's the proper thing to do. So at the end of the day, go ahead. People can hate, but he won, UFC won, and ultimately WWE won too, because this is great exposure for WWE. Everybody won except for the people that still have just personal animosity towards CM Punk. Phillip Brooks, the man, not CM Punk, the character.
Yeah. Period. We're going to wrap it up right there. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's show. I want to thank my good friend Brian Shields for coming on today, the author of 30 Years of WrestleMania book. He was a great guy, a great guest today. He brings a different perspective. I always enjoy chatting it up with him. You can follow him at Twitter at It's Brian Shields. You can follow my good brother Adam at Twitter at AdamDaily13. Check out the show with Sam on Wrestling With, at Wrestling With on Twitter. Check it out at mindandcarnage.com. You can follow me on Twitter at WC Josh Lopez. I want to say this really quick before we head out. I want to give props to Mauro Ranallo, Daniel Bryan, and Triple H, and everybody involved with the Cruiserweight Classic, and Corey Graves. It's been an amazing project over this past couple months. I have been having a blast covering this tournament. It's going to be a blast covering the finale tonight. My pick of winning the tournament is Zack Sabre Jr. I think Zack Sabre Jr. will be the first Cruiserweight Classic champion, and I hope that they continue this tournament on the network for every summer. So that'd be pretty cool. Adam, what were you going to say?
Honestly, I had Zack Sabre at the beginning of the tournament. That was my pick, and I'm glad to see that he is in position to where he might take it home. Hey, I might win one. Hey, stupid Smark might know one after all.
Man, check us out on Mitchell McNeil's show, The Pipe Bomb with Nicole Company on the New Age Insiders Network. That'll be, I think we're doing it tomorrow night. I'm not covering TNA this week, so we're all free and ready to go. Yeah. So hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you guys want to listen to the audio version and you don't want to see our ridiculous mugs because you see us enough as it is, you could subscribe to the show on iTunes, Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. You guys can listen to us there. So for Brother Adam, for Brian Shields, thanks for checking out the show. I am Josh Lopez. Thank you guys for checking out the podcast. Like this video, subscribe, and we'll talk to you next week. Peace.